Hey guys, I'm posting this video as part 3 Spiral Dynamics Continued. If you're not interested in Spiral Dynamics, to avoid this video because of its title, um, we left off a discussion just saying, hey, let's kind of play around with new ideas. Um, and there's a whole host of ideas that we could possibly go with, and I'm gonna encourage anybody watching this to make a response video. The guys who've been talking with me, feedback is appreciated, but more so input. I would love to hear what you have to say and your own ideas for integral theory, because um, collaboratively something could come out of it. We never know, or at least for our own appreciation of the theory, and perhaps for just once we let the idea out there, maybe it'll go somewhere with somebody else or with ourselves. Who knows? But so I was mentioning in the last video, hey, it'd be really interesting if we had a phylogenetic tree of consciousness. That would be amazing because it would show the nonlinearity of how consciousness evolves, the dynamics of it, the overall patterns and cycles, and et cetera, et cetera. And that'd be very interesting. Another thing that I thought of, um, well, I mean, the whole thing for me is we're at the point where we can now reflect on our consciousness. We can now reflect upon how things have gone. Only because we're at the point where we're at a global perspective, we're able to look back, we're able to look a little bit forward, we're able to see at least some underlying patterns and really reflect on some kind of underlying similarity. And I mean, that's just how intelligence evolves. It reflects upon itself, it's critical of itself. Um, More and more self-awareness is key. And integral is basically, that is its definition. We are now at the point where we can reflect upon all these different theories, all these different perspectives, and see some underlying patterns at work. Now, there are different ways to do that. I think Wilber's way was to try to integrate all of the perspectives in a particular metaphysics. But along with that, he also discerned some underlying patterns, such as evolution of consciousness, increased complexity, multidimensionality, the evolution of values. I mean, these are all very fascinating topics, especially the idea that we're moving from egocentric to ethnocentric to a world-centric consciousness and a world-centric civilization, a planetary civilization, in other words. These are very big ideas that I think are resonant with a lot of different thinkers. And because integral is resonant with so many different thinkers who may have not even heard of integral or Wilber, gives some credence to it, and I think in some fascinating, intriguing dialogue that could unveil some more things about where we're headed, why we're headed there, understanding ourselves and our own evolution. So, I mean, Wilber tries it with the more rational, systemic approach. For me, I see the systems and the symbols as very useful, but I don't think we'll be able. I think his general ideas are going to really set people off in a good way, and I think art is already doing that, because it's getting people to think more about their reflect on their consciousness, reflect on consciousness in general, and this is happening in many, many ways. I think it's almost unnecessary to to systemize everything, because it's going to happen organically and naturally in the environment. It's going to happen when cultures clash. It's going to happen when the civilization becomes more planetary, and new generations of people who are raised in a planetary culture are going to reflect upon their past, and then we'll see more natural, widely accepted integral theories. At least that's my own interpretation. So, I mean, this is sort of a general integral statement, I guess, but in a more basic, immediate, on a more immediate reflection, I was thinking of the use of maps and symbols as useful guidelines and sort of reality orienting um, tools, and I think that's what they're meant to be. But the problem is, if they become too overbearing, too complex, too systemic, they kind of you begin to mistake the map for the territory. And actually, to their credit, the intro community has actually mentioned that was one of the big challenges Integral faced. Um, now that it was growing, the challenge is the system itself. The systemology may be a little bit too um, unable to function as well as the finger pointing to the moon. So I think if you're going to use a map and you're going to use something like AQAL or spiral dynamics, it has to be um, naturally oriented to pointing out something about reality, and something that hopefully is intuitive and reflective of the culture as a whole. And if it's not reflective of the culture as a whole, it's moving them into some new direction that's very meaningful, a new way of interpreting reality. If a map can do that, great. If it can expand your consciousness, excellent. A map is really the same thing as a koan. It's in that it is meant to not identical, but the same intention as to point to something, to direct you towards something that is greater than the statement itself. So this leads me to basically think, in my opinion, I think the integral AQAL spiral dynamics, that matrix, is a little bit personally too complex for me. Not that I don't understand it, but I don't think it's useful in a non-academic way. And I don't think dumbing it down is useful in a non-academic way. I think what would be better would be more creative ways to kind of demonstrate symbolically, artistically, because they both are intertwined, the relationship in about consciousness and evolution, etc. So here's what I did. I was sitting on the train, and I kind of came up with the idea that, well, spiral dynamics is similar to AQAL, the old quadrant thing, because it's talking about, higher and higher levels of consciousness, evolution, and the many dynamics of it. The spiral dynamics talks more about the interior, though. It talks more about the value systems, primarily. AQAL tries to incorporate everything in this matrix grid. That's good. But AQAL is kind of static. It kind of just shows reality as just a static bonk. Here are the quadrants, and that's it. It doesn't. It may show the relationship if you're a mathematician. Quadrant. 1A, 2B. But I don't think it can intuitively do that. I think it's more for people who are geared towards rational, logical, sort of oriented thinking, and that's good. But one other way to do it might be to combine spiral dynamics with with AQAL, and so I just came up with the idea that why not use the symbolic image of a double helix, because the double helix it can show the relationship and the need for interior and exterior. And how they kind of dance around and evolve the whole systems, the dynamic physical and social systems. So why not have the left hand and the right hand strand, not hand, and the dynamic interplay between the two of them spiraling up. And then I also thought of some kind of overlapping three-dimensional version of that being, I don't know, the oversoul or some kind of other thing. I mean, it sounds more like an Alex Gray painting, but to me it makes more sense because I want to show the dynamics between the physical and the non-physical, the conceptual, and how they spur off each other. I mean, I know I mentioned in another video, civilization, great evolutions in consciousness have been through inventions, have been through physical changes in our environment that made us think differently and see differently. So anyway, that's where I started. Let me know what you think and post a response. Thanks for listening.